Okay guys, welcome back to This Week in BJJ. Today, Shawn Williams is here to talk about some of the cool things that we saw at the IBJJ Pro League. One of the cool things we saw was Andre Galvão versus Romulo Barral. Andre was trying for his double under guard pass, and Romulo did an excellent job of preventing it. Shawn, can you show us some of the details, what goes into that?
Absolutely, love to. So we're going to take a look at two different body positions from the double underhook pass, primarily when the chest is low and the passer is a little bit more extended, and when the chest is high and the head is high and he's got his hips underneath his chest. Let's take a look at some basic rules that we want to keep in mind when someone gets underneath our legs. Here's some basic rules. Number one, I don't want my legs up on the top of the shoulders, the traps. We want to make sure our legs are down by the crook of his elbows, and your feet want to stay heavy, right? We don't want our legs stiff like a board that is connected to our body, because if I make my legs real stiff and Dane just throws my legs, look at that, we go over like a board, okay? We want to make sure our legs stay heavy and independent. So if he starts to lift a little, the legs stay heavy. Romulo did a great job of, you watch the bend in the legs and the feet looking to try to touch the floor all the time, makes those legs feel heavy, and that way we can't get thrown over sideways. The second rule is either going to be grabbing both sleeves or an over the back grip. Okay? An over the back grip is any time that we really feel threatened that a guy is going to pick us up and throw us with my legs behind me and go to my back. So when he first digs underneath, come on down here, Dan. When he first digs underneath, a good idea is to get this over the back grip. Okay? What'll happen is now as he bodies up, he brings his chest up. It doesn't allow him to bring his head up, right? And that way my legs can stay off the shoulders and heavy. If I don't protect this, you see now my hips are up, he's gonna flip me over, and then he can take my back. So first thing we're gonna do, especially if a guy is wild, he has a lot of energy, is we're gonna grab up over the back. We're gonna make sure our legs are off of the shoulders, and I'm gonna control the sleeve on the opposite side. This way when Dane starts to body up, it slows everything down. It allows me to then move my body away, which now we can transfer to both sleeves. We know the legs are off the shoulders. He doesn't have that initial lift, and then we're gonna go to both sleeves now, okay? Here is when the two body positions come into play. As Dane brings his chest up to still try to lift, he can still pick my hips up, okay? I wanna make sure that we move away. I like to call this sort of a caterpillar-like movement. Here's what we're gonna do, is he's picking my legs up, I'm gonna push my legs down and caterpillar away. So as Dane's driving forward and trying to stack, we're always moving away. We need to have a bridge up on the top of our head to move away. If his body's up, here's what we're gonna elect to do. We're gonna elect to push our hips out to one side. So I'm gonna put my foot down and point my toes to my left, which will move my hips out to the right. This is gonna give me room to circle the foot inside the bicep. So if the chest is up, we're gonna bring the legs inside. So we're gonna bring one leg inside, hip out to the other side, bring the second leg inside. If his chest is down and he's still driving, we still wanna hit our caterpillar, we still wanna keep the legs off, but now you see there's no room to circle the legs in front. This is kind of the position that Galvão had here. There's absolutely no room for me to bring the leg in front, and if I try to bring the leg in front, that's gonna help that pass. So if the head is down and the body is elongated, again, we need to move the hips out. So we're gonna push down on the arm, I'm gonna move my foot out by pointing my toes to my left, my hips move to the right, and then we're gonna sneak our foot inside the gap of the hip. And this will stop that lift. We're gonna do the same thing to the other side, and now we're set. We've shut down any lift he can have with my legs. My legs are hooked in there. If he maintains the grip and tries to lift, he's just going nowhere. So we've got two different body positions warning two different defenses. One, body is up, and my initial grab is to slow the guy down, and once he starts lifting, we get our body away, I go to the sleeves. If his body is forward, we're gonna move the hips out and circle the leg inside the arms here. Move the hips out to the other side, circle the legs inside the arms. If the body is down, again, make sure that the legs are heavy. This is very important. Move the hips out to the side. We put the hook inside the gap of the hip, just like a butterfly hook. We move the hips out again. Second hook goes into play, and then we can go on the offense. So really systematic, the two different defenses to those two different positions. Pretty simple. If we just keep our wits about us, grab over the back to stop the initial lift, and then get our legs off the shoulders to the elbows. We make the legs heavy, and then we can start playing.
That's really nice. So what do you do if you're going against a guy who has an incredible guard like Romulo? Andre was trying and trying. He was there in that position for quite a while, wasn't getting anywhere. You just give up and try a different pass?
You combine. You know, if you watch that match, guys, you'll see Romulo's foot nearly get stuck under Galvão's leg, and he did a good job of keeping his foot out, because if I'm passing Dane's guard, as soon as those legs get heavy, I feel like I can't go, and what's the next simple combination is stepping over a leg, bringing this arm out, and moving into, you know, what we call the low pass series, or the over-under pass. So that combinations, they start flowing like crazy. And Romulo did a good job of keeping the grips on the sleeves, making sure he didn't get stepped over. And that's primarily like when we go from the back to the sleeves, that's shutting down. So then we get to the sleeves, it's gonna shut down that taking the arm out and going to the low pass or the over-under pass. Because those combinations are gonna start going like crazy.
Cool. So you showed some great ways to stop the pass. What's your favorite way to maybe submit from that position?
Yeah, we got a couple of fun ones. So first off, there's all sorts of different submissions here, right? But we're gonna take a look at when he's elongated, and we've got this stalemate, and we've got our foot, we locked our feet inside, right? We got here. Here, we're gonna finish on this American lock. It's kind of an old move, but I don't see a lot of people using it, so I'd like to show you. When we're ready to go for our finish, the key detail is that his hand needs to stay at my hip. If I lose the grip, it's not gonna finish. So I wanna make sure that this hand stays at hip height. Okay? Once we know we're gonna finish on this arm, I'm gonna remove this foot and put it on the thigh. Because what we're gonna do, if you look at this little gap over here, we're gonna move our hip up, and my right foot's gonna sneak all the way through the hole there, and we're gonna make a hook on the far side. Again, it's important that I gotta keep this arm up at the hip, and now I'm gonna extend my right leg, and it's gonna finish on an American lock. It's real tricky, little shoulder lock underneath there. You can see it. It's just like an American lock from Americana that we do from the mount. It's just underneath there, and it uses the legs. Don't let go of this sleeve though. I wanna make sure that we maintain the grip on both sleeves. And again, the biggest detail that I see people messing up is that this hand has to be up at the hip. If you let the hand slide down, the bend of the elbow is no good, so it's gotta stay up at the hip. And then what I like to do from here is, if I feel that this isn't working, I like to thread this through, go right back to the triangle here. So, and a nice little triangle right through, and it's a nice combination. Always need combinations when we think of one, we need a combination to that.
Because the first one doesn't always work.
That's correct, that's correct.
Awesome. Anything else you want to show from this position, or is that about it?
Guillotines. Yeah, the other thing that we can do there is sit up. So if you're not a fan of using the sleeves to set up finishes, once you get both hooks in, we extend our body, and then you sit up. And then what I would like to do is the front choke guillotine, where you push the head down, make sure that we hold the chin, this hand wraps over the top, and then we use our stomach to hit a front guillotine. We can also grab the belt, post a hand, and hip heist. And sometimes you get a sweep. When we hip heist, sometimes you'll get that sweep to work. Other times you'll just hip heist out to the side. So all those follow-up attacks, they all come off that trapping the wrist, getting the feet inside. But they all start with stopping the lift. So initially, grab over the back, get the legs down and heavy, wiggle yourself away. The distance is very important. We can never have our hips brought up on top of our opponent's hips. And if you watch Romulo, he does all those things. He moves away, he does all that stuff to shut down that double underhook pass.
So these are all the things that Shawn saw and that he knew from watching. I mean, you didn't learn this from watching Romulo and Andre, but you could recognize that. So I encourage all you guys, whenever you're watching competition, is to try to see what you can learn from it, because this is a prime example of how educational competition footage can be.
Oh, absolutely.
And those are the guys at the highest level doing what works. They're not doing fancy things that don't work, right? So,
no.
Shawn, thank you so much for showing those details. That was great. We're going to study those and make them part of our games for sure.
It's my pleasure. Our pleasure.
All right, guys, that marks the end of this week in BJJ. We'll be back next week with another brand new episode. Keep on rolling.
That concludes this installment of This Week in BJJ. Subscribe on iTunes, watch and review past episodes, and then be sure to join us again next Friday night, right here for another live edition of This Week in BJJ.